it comes up all the time, and not a lot's being done about it. The services are underfunded, the workers are underfunded. That is a massive thing that I will be looking for when I'm voting, and I know a lot of people will be.
Specifically, what about mental health?
The services, the waiting lists are way too long. 7 months for an assessment at CAMS has been happening, and even longer has been happening. And I know COVID has put things back, but it was already bad before that, so it's not much of an excuse. And climate change is another thing that I think a lot of people are looking for when they're voting, including myself. As an island, there's so much that we can do. We are contained. We can do a lot and be. We can do a lot to support ourselves and change the way that we live without relying on other places.
What do you say to people then who would say we're a minuscule dot in terms of the globe, in terms of the world, when China and India, Brazil and people like that are polluting willy-nilly? What can the little old Isle of Man do in global terms? How can we affect things?
A lot of the emissions that places like India and China are polluting is from the factories of the goods that we're buying. So if we stop buying things that are made in factories there and start buying things that are made sustainably and locally, then their emissions will go down. It's our actions, but the emissions are just happening somewhere else, so it's still our problem.
The Chinese Communist Party is 100 years old today. They're having a big parade in Beijing, and China has become an enormous global powerhouse for finance. So how do we stop a country like China doing what it does in terms of workers' rights, oppressing people, which they do? How can the Western world approach that? What do we do?
We show them a better way. We create a better way for ourselves and encourage them to follow. If we had an example that they saw and thought is a better way, we show them that there are better ways, then we can only hope that they'll make that decision to change.
Okay, anybody else want to talk about... yes, there we are. Tyler?
So, about China, it's it's a hard issue to fix, to be honest, because at some point they're that much of a power that no matter what their citizens want to do, it's just not going to happen. So the only way to properly fix any emission problems that you want to talk about, or just China in general, is to start making things locally. Like, instead of trying to outsource all goods for as cheap as possible, you got to use your local economy to try drive more people to buy there than outsourced from China.
Tyler, why do you think there aren't any wind farms on the Isle of Man?
I'm not too sure. They haven't really put much thought in it, really. I know a bunch of the energy comes from the UK, so that's probably just the cheaper option, to be honest.
Your generation will have to sort all this out. Your generation will have to sort out sustainable energy, power, pollution, and enormous economies like China dominating the world. So on the Isle of Man, we have a big tidal range. We could have tidal power. It's possible. Yeah. We have lots of wind on the Isle of Man. There's not a wind farm, well, a couple of private wind farms on the Isle of Man.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised there's not, because there's obviously a lot of wind to harness, and with the tide, it's very, very windy. So
yeah, well, it comes down to planning. We were talking about those elms before.
Yeah, it's mainly just planning permission and actually starting to do something. I know there's been plans for wind farms for ages, but it's actually the initial going to do something that's the hard bit.
Well, everybody says we should have wind farms, but if somebody suddenly proposed 60 wind turbines in Ramsey Bay, what would you say?
I don't think people would be a fan of it. I think what most people want is them in the middle of the sea, because then you can't really see them, to be honest. I know people don't either like the noise or just looking at them, to be honest. So I feel like that's a hard one to encourage people to
Okay,
want.
Elliot?
Yeah, I think I personally would prefer to have loads of wind turbines in the bay than have nothing in the bay and have alternate sources of electricity polluting the planet. I think the goal was to have all our, well, for the Isle of Man to have all the energy produced be sustainable by 2035, and that's just with at the moment the only thing we have is an energy from waste plant, and that's 10%. And we're not going to go completely sustainable without introducing something else like wind farms.
Do you
or
genuinely
tidal.
think it's going to happen in your lifetime?
Actually, I think with the next generation coming up, I think it will. I think everyone in our generation is very driven to make the planet a better place. Yeah.
Well, the technology is around. It just depends whether there's the political will and whether there's the opinion coming through from the electorate as to... So you think the opinion is there from the electorate?
Yeah.
Okay. Evan, I'd like to talk about cannabis. Medicinal cannabis or recreational cannabis. What's your opinion?
Personally, I think that recreational cannabis, firstly, because it's what we as youths are sort of talked about by the police and by our parents and teachers. It's an interesting topic that needs to sort of... It has lots of layers about whether legalizing it would make it worse or taxing it would make it more healthy or more sort of standardized. And everyone compares it to places like Amsterdam in America, where they've been able to sort of create a government system where it's legal and monitored. Personally, I don't really have a preference about whether we should or shouldn't. I think, like many illegal drugs, it has its associations with worse things and other crimes. When it comes to using it for sort of to deal with mental or physical disorders, I think it's a brilliant use that has luckily been explored and can help with things like Parkinson's, as well as a variety of things like epilepsy and schizophrenia, which is unmatched by any other type of medication. So it's something that we need to continue to use and make people almost aware of.
Have the school talked to you about this, or police? Have they come into school?
The Northern Police Department have come in many times and not just done something sort of simple like cannabis is wrong, don't smoke it, you'll get arrested, but have actually introduced us to like the types that can be introduced to the facilities at, for example, festivals. If you have any sort of drug, there are like tents that you can go and get it tested, and even though it's illegal and people may be worried, there is no criminal charges for making sure that you're safe.
Do you think personal recreational cannabis is a gateway drug to other hard drugs?
I don't think the act of smoking cannabis is. It's more the doors it opens when it comes to societal and peer pressure more than anything else. Lots of people say that it's non-addictive and it doesn't lead to anything else. But if you find someone to purchase it off, it may be that they have other things that you may be enticed to do.
Oh, I see. So you're getting into the criminal world by buying cannabis, and they say, well, if you like this, you'll love this.
Yes, it's that sort of you open your doors to the general market and say, hey, I'm okay with bending the law, and then people can sort of see how far you'll go.
Do you think the Manx government would ever legalise recreational cannabis and licence it?
I don't think I can say either way. If I asked, for example, my parents if they thought it was going to be legalised anywhere in the world at my age, they would have said, a hard no, that it was not something they'd thought about. But it will be interesting to see which way they lean, if they want to be able to go with some of the other places in the country or not.
Let's talk to Jack about this as well. Jack, what do you think about recreational cannabis?
I think if we're going to have tobacco legalised, we should also have cannabis legalised. I think for sure it should be.
That's simple.
It is a tough one, because then you could say that in the future the cost on the NHS will be greater, because certain types of cancer, like throat cancer, is more associated with marijuana. I think medicinally it should definitely be legal. If it's going to benefit the patient, then they should have access to it, just so their condition.
Okay. Do you play football, Jack?
Yeah.
Who do you play for?
Ramsey.
How's the season going?
Well, it's over now.
How did it go?
We got to the FA Cup final, but we lost to Corinthians.
What position did you play?
I played right back. Yeah.
How long have you been playing for them?
This is my first season in senior football.
And how did you find it?
Good. Very good. Good season.
Tough?
It wasn't good at the start, results-wise, but after lockdown, got a lot better. And we got to the FA Cup final.
So you play at Balaclone?
Yeah.
What's it like playing there? It's an iconic venue. What's it like? What's the pitch like?
Pitch is very good. When it rains, it's not the best. It needs new drainage, I think. but when it's hot and in the summer, it's probably the best pitch.
Were you the youngest person to play for Ramsey this year then?
I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah.
Enjoyable season. Well, that's fantastic to know. Right, we've talked about the. Will you be voting in September?
I think so. I've not really thought about it that much, to be honest, but in Ramsey there's only 2 candidates going for it, I think.
Yeah.
So I think I'll vote, yeah.
And university next year?
Yeah, planning to hopefully study medicine.
Where?
Maybe Edinburgh or Manchester.
What do you see as a career?
I want to be a doctor. I'm not sure what type of doctor yet. But yeah, hopefully. It's hard to get into medical school though.
And it's a long time. How many years in medical school?
Some courses are 5, some are 6. Yeah.
Long time.
Long time, yeah.
Right. When you leave Ramsey Grammar School this time next year, what will be your abiding memory of Ramsey Grammar School?
There's a lot of things.
Doesn't have to be serious. It could be the dinners.
Well, in year 7, all the dinners used to be a lot unhealthier but nicer. So they were good. The sports, football, basketball. We won the basketball final.
What's the quality of teaching like at Ramsey Grammar School?
I think it's very good. I've not had any experience elsewhere, but yeah, I think overall it's very good. Yeah.
Okay, right, we're going to be back in just a few moments' time, live with Ramsey Grammar School, the students here with more to say.